welcome to the OWL studio where I'm interviewing Mr. Dalen, who has been with OWL Television for 24 years. Hi.
Hi there.
How did you get interested with television and when?
Well, actually, television I've been interested in from the very beginning. Basically, in my lifetime, I've seen radio and television develop. And I can remember when I was a little kid, they had a black box about yay big, and I think it was basically crystal used, and had a big antenna. They'd run upside and from tree to tree, and you'd sit and just marvel because of the fact you heard this sound coming through this little black box. As time progressed on at home, I remember we had a great big TV set that had dials all over the front of it. It looked like more like a console of an airplane now than a radio, and that we used to listen to in here. That had a loudspeaker on it, and I even became interested enough so we got a little mic one time, and I remember you'd hook to the two of the prongs of the detector tube so you could actually talk through the radio, and I thought this is a marvel. And as life progressed, and when I was in college, I was always interested in radio, and I even became involved with producing 2 radio shows for the Public Relations Department at Augustana College, and then even ended up doing some radio while I was in the military, and then coming back, I majored quite heavily in my master's in radio and TV production at the university.
When did you get started at OWL Television?
Well, basically, I've been with OWL pretty much since its very beginning. In 1960, they did an experimental project down at Washington Senior High School. They did secure the equipment, and Miss Emmeline Flint, who was the librarian, made a presentation on to the incoming sophomores on how to use the Dewey Decimal System in the library, pretty much explaining the library system. So this is the first use ever made experimentally of television in the school system. About a year later, they acquired their own equipment and then went to broadcasting to the different classrooms biology sessions.
What most interests you with television and radio?
Well, I think that I've never ceased to marvel at the tremendous potential in radio and television. While it's been used for entertainment, I think there is a tremendous use still to be made of an easy conveyance of messages and information. It's really, I think we still have not explored the total potential use of it. However, as the time goes on, more and more businesses, industry, the military, hospitals are using television, advanced methods of television.
How come you picked South Dakota to teach school at?
Well, the basic reason I ended up in South Dakota is because I was a native South Dakotian. I went to school here in Sioux Falls at Augustana College, and I had some time in the service, which time I also attended McAllister College in St. Paul, Polaris Flight Academy in California, and came back and pulled it all together in my degree at Augustana, and then later went on and did a year of study at the University of South Dakota, getting my master's, and then approximately 50, 60 hours beyond that again in other work.
How did OWL Television get started?
Well, OWL Television actually got started down there because of an interest in this new baby, and actually they had an advisory committee down at Washington High School. I'll read the names of the people that were involved in it. It is Mr. Robert Blake, who is the audiovisual director and pretty much the father of getting this thing organized, Dorothy Furrow, Joy Hamron, Fred Kohotic, Ethel Oyen, Ben Rosso, who was a principal, Charles Sidlow, physics professor, E.W. Scarda, the superintendent, and H.E. Thurston, who was a biology instructor. And that is our basic committee, and they met and got together and organized or investigated further the uses of television.
How does television relate to education?
Well, television itself is nothing magic. It is, however, a very important conveying device. Well, for example, it maybe compares a lot to the movie, where you'd have a 16 millimeter movie that they'd present in a classroom. They also used it for instruction, basically time after time after time, presenting specific types of information and disseminating this information to large groups of people. It also meant sharing people with a tremendous amount of expertise with the masses of people rather than limited to a very few people in a classroom. It also has offered a tremendous amount of opportunity because it can take you right to a spot, actually. If you remember now, you look at the news, they talk about something happening in some certain place in the United States. Next thing you know, you're looking at that exact location and exactly what's happened. And that immediacy and that ability to convey detailed information from very specific locations is one of the tremendously strong attributes of television.
How did you get the name OWL-TV?
Owl Television? Well, we were looking for a name, and we looked at the number of the schools that were involved at that particular time. We had Washington Senior High School, Lincoln Senior High School, and a Gorman Senior High School that furnished students for our classes. So we thought that looked pretty good. Well, there's only three ways you could go with that. It'd be low, L-O-W television, which we didn't want, and the WOW, which was non-significant, and the other one was OWL, which was the traditional educational symbol. And OWL seemed the way to go at that time, and that's the name we adopted, and that's the name we stayed with.
What are the services of OWL Television?
Basically, the television has furnished, OWL Television has furnished 4 different services to the district. One, of course, was instruction, the instruction of students in radio and television production. The second one is production of programmings for the school and the community. Thirdly was distribution of programming to the schools and to both live and mail out, or as they call it, send out to different schools. And fourth would be the engineering services to the district, the distribution systems and things of this type, and the television sets.
What types of programming are provided for the evening programs?
Well, we have basically two types of programming. When OWL is not actually broadcasting live, we have a message channel, and that gives information relative to the school and the community as far as upcoming events, things that are going to happen, general information, the menus, the OWL programming that's going to take place that evening, general information for everybody. Then during the daytime, we broadcast programs basically to the elementary schools, educational programming. And then the evening, starting approximately 6 o'clock and going till 10, we have programs for the general community and the school.
How many channels are provided in the school district?
Well, as you realize, OWL TV is one channel that goes to all the schools in the district. Basically, it's used for program for the elementary schools. And then each junior high school has either 2 or 3 channels on which they can broadcast distribute programming intra-building, I mean within the building itself. And then the 2 senior high schools have at least 3 channels where programming can be distributed to the classrooms.
When did OWL move to Lincoln?
OWL moved to Lincoln in 1968. Previous to that time, it had been pretty much under the audio-visual department, and in 1968, Mr. Glenn Bundy, who was then the vocational director, included the plans for the present studio in this building that was known now as the E building here at Lincoln. So these rooms were specifically designed to be a television studio. This building was then completed in approximately, I think, the spring of 1968, and during that summer we moved all the equipment in here, and it's been located here in the Lincoln complex since that time.
What types of equipment did you start out with?
Basically, starting out, we had 2 cameras and a switcher and a control room and audio equipment. And at that time, we distributed, I think we had approximately 10 television sets in Washington Senior High School. Now, to feed those sets in the classrooms, it is much like a Christmas tree. It ran from one set and then to the next, and then in just a complete cycle and came back to the end. Now, if any time that were to be broken or a link broken on that, the whole system was non-functional. So it was not the best of systems, but it did work pretty well. One of the things that's very interesting there, they had a, say if it was biology, and there's 7 classes of biology. The instructors, who were then Mr. Dolan and Mr. Thurston, did the majority of the programs. They have to do the program 7 times over in the daytime, which was really, they were exhausted when they were through. Well, that was the first type of system we had. Basically the cameras and the console and the audio equipment. Of course, the lighting, which we had in there too, was included, in some background and some equipment. As time went on, then we finally added the thing that was a magic, and that is a videotape recorder. The first one we acquired was a big Ampex 2-inch helical scan unit, and that we could record a whole hour's programming, and rather than have to do the program over 7 times, you could do it once and play it back. In fact, if it is good enough, you'd retain it and use it for the next year. So that way you began to build up a storage or a backlog of programming you could use. That is a basic addition there. Since we've moved here to Lincoln, we've added, of course, quite a little more equipment. We added more. When we had 1 videotape recorder, we thought we were doing well. When we moved here, we had 3 of them, with the 2-inch machines. And then we finally went to another format, a 1/2-inch format, and added still more machines. Of course, now, as you realize, the videotape machines are very, very numerous. We have a lot of them. But basically here in the studio, we still use 3/4-inch machines. That is another big thing that really helped a lot. And now, of course, we have editing equipment. So we've been adding equipment all along as time went on. When we started going over the cable system, then it was also necessary to improve the signal quality, which required the use of time-based correctors, which actually took the signal off from the videotape equipment and stabilized it to more broadcast quality, so it could carry over a cable system without losing much of its signal.
What channel did OWL start with?
When we started actually going on the air here with in 1974, we were on Channel 9, and we were on that for several years. And then finally, when the cable company sort of changed their schedules around, added more, we were pushed up to 13, Channel 13, which we were on at this time.
What year did the cable system give OWL a channel?
As I said before, it is 1974. But I can remember previous to that, too, we were quite excited about it. In fact, they'd rented a warehouse out in the western section of town where they had their equipment, and occasionally we'd be going out and checking and seeing how they were coming along with their system. And, of course, this meant that they had to string this cable all over the city of Sioux Falls and install their basic equipment at their head end, which was down in South Duluth. And even had to put a feeder wire in here so we could feed our programming down to the head end of the cable company. This was really a big thing happening, and then I think it was in the fall, in September, we finally went on with our nighttime programming.
What types of cameras has OWL television used?
We have basically used 3 types of cameras in the year. We started out, I could not tell you the first equipment that we had here, but that was borrowed anyway for the experimental use. That is way back in 1960. But the first purchased equipment was DAGE, D-A-G-E. which was rather popular at that time, but you don't see too much of it at the present time. That was black and white, and we had 2 cameras. That was really unique because in the cameras itself we could actually use picture reversal, where you could make it actually look like a negative, completely flip the picture around, and also switch it from to whites to black and the blacks to white. Then the next development was in the 70s, about the time we went on with cable, and then we went to color cameras, and those were Norelcos, identical to a Philips camera. It was made in Holland. But the Norelco cameras then served us till just a year ago when we acquired these new Hitachi cameras. Of course, each time you'd go from a camera to a new camera, the technology had developed so radically that it was almost unbelievable what had happened. And the early cameras are large. In other words, they were sort of an ego trip if you had a big camera. That is impressive. So the Dages were pretty good sized cameras, and the Norelcos were really very large cameras, and now these new cameras are rather small. They're not the impressive, massive, bulky things that we had before. But yet, included in these new cameras are some very sophisticated electronics that have radically improved the quality, the picture quality.
What famous people have been in the TV studio or interviewed by the television?
Well, we've had quite a few people, and I think some very famous people from right here in town, and we've had some very enjoyable visits with them. We did one series of broadcasts on the history of broadcasting. Sylvia Henkin did the interviewing for us and incorporated a lot of the people that were in the early broadcasting careers here in Sioux Falls. Another, we had Paul Harvey in here at one time. He was you've all heard him on radio. I can remember doing that they did an interview with him. We had several students who came in that time and interviewed him. Beaver from Leave It to Beaver was in. We did an interview with him, and that was also very interesting. He was telling about the particular style and the format of the show of that time, and how come that is so successful, and the fact that we're looking at that format again to see, try and emulate that type of a humorous atmosphere, because that program was so popular. They'd like to duplicate that again in something else, perhaps. We've had interviews with people like Lawrence Welk and his accordionist, as you know, from this area too, who was here, Myron Florin. And we've had presidential visits in town where we've been out and taken pictures of them. We've had host Mary Hart, who has a program on the network now, was here one time doing an interview with the Burdals relative to some historical situation here in town and in the area. So we've had our share of people that have come in to visit us.
All television has been involved with presidential visits and elections. Who are these people involved with it?
Well, that has been a very interesting thing. The first time we had it, President Ford was coming into town, and we had to get our press passes to be able to get in and do this videotaping. So it took a while, I think a month ahead of time, and we got in and did that interview. We were with the regular press box, and we did have our television camera there at that time. Most of them are still running on the film or movie camera. Excuse me. The thing is that it's important that the press wanted a copy of our tape too to have for their files back in the White House, because it was on television. So when we were through, we hurried back here and we played it back to the school district on Owl TV at that time, and also dubbed a copy for them to take back to the White House in Washington, D.C. When McGovern ran for office, he was a contender. We were down and covered that time, and I know that They did massive setups in there for CBS and NBC and the major networks, ABC. And one of my former students at the time was doing audio for CBS. So we started visiting with a gentleman there from the Columbia Broadcasting System that was in charge, and he invited us to put our tripod and camera up on top of his desk, which was already elevated, so we were up there shooting over everybody and really getting a very good picture, but that is due to the cooperation of the people there. It is a lot of fun to watch those and develop and be there right at the heart of the news breaks. And then the last one, of course, we covered was when President Reagan was here in town. And there again, we had our camera set up and with the regular press and recorded what we wished of his speech and the crowd being there and everything of the sort.
How many people have worked with OWL Television?
Well, we've had a couple, 3 engineers. One of the first people, as I said, Mr. Robert Blake, who was the audiovisual director back in 1960, was pretty much instrumental in heading the committee and everything that got the television going. There was a Ruth Adkins, too, that was the first TV coordinator down at Washington High School. And she was there one year, and then I followed her in that position as TV coordinator. And then we acquired, they had one technician, I can't recall exactly who that was to begin with, and we've had several. When we came down to Lincoln Senior High School here in this complex, then we had a full-time television person, the name of Lauren Jones, who was here with us. And of course, he's retired and has since been replaced by Mr. William Kading. Later on, Mr. Jeff Little came on staff. He's a television assistant. Carolyn Waxdahl is on right now as a television assistant. So that's basically our staff. Plus, they have a TV coordinator at Washington Senior High School. We've had several people that have been employed here. A couple I can think of were the former students, I should say, that have worked and left and gone on to other fields, basically television or allied fields.
What types of productions does OWL do?
Well, as far as the general public is concerned, we've tried to do programs that have been of general interest. We try not to imitate programs that are on the network. Programs relating to public service organizations. We've had one program that we worked with quite a long period of time, and that one is sponsored by the Hearing Communication Services for the Deaf. And that program itself, we've been with quite a long time. And that's where the programs were signed for the hearing impaired audience. We did two series of programs for the classroom. One was on music. That one was done by Judy Cross, who is now the wife of Jeff Little here in the studio. We did two on athletics or physical education, and that was a one specifically, again, designed for use in the schools for training students. Then we've also had a series, a young lady, Dorothy Dempsey, called Dorothy's Place. Those that we've done. Recently been working with a production on Indian education with Mr. Roger Philbrick, and that's been a very enjoyable situation. So we've had some major types of programs that we actually have done of this nature. I hope I haven't eliminated that are very important, but I didn't mention the one we've been with a long time is the one with the signing and for the hearing impaired.
What are some of the things that the students learn in radio and TV class?
Well, the things that students basically should learn is to get the terminology of the field. And terminology, as you realize, you have to know all the technical names, all of the different names, all of the different types of lighting, the different parts of the camera, and all of the different types of equipment. So that'd be classified as terminology, the utilization of them, and the theory of them. I like to have them get some history, and then very important after getting all this so-called book learning is to apply it and what we call hands-on experience. Once a person knows it and can use it and apply it to the equipment, then you're on the road. It takes both. You have to know and you have to be able to do. You have to be able to go out there and take that camera and know how to zoom it in and out, how to adjust the focus, how to compose pictures. Now that's one thing people say, well, I'll just take a picture, and a lot of people take a camera out and snap it, and the picture isn't that great, but they haven't put the ability into it that they are learning into it. There's a lot of things that you have to know about composing a picture, how to lead a person, all those different things, as you well know. But all of these things itself are fine, but you have to learn to apply them and actually do them. So it's a rather involved procedure, and a person never stops learning.
Do you know how many students have went through this class?
Well, it'd be hard to guess right now. I suppose if I take an average number and multiply it, I could do it, but we had a maximum of approximately 20 students in each of the classes, the morning and the afternoon classes. So it's varied quite greatly in the numbers, but I know it's been a tremendous number of students that have already had their experience. In fact, this morning when I was looking through some of this information, I had all these pictures of different students that I had in here, and it's really very interesting.
How long are the classes taught for, during the school day?
The first one morning class, the career class, is 3 periods or 3 hours a day for an entire year. And that should give you all of the learning skills you actually need for job entry. The other class is 2 hours a day for 1 semester, and that's the introductory class. And there are 2 classes, one the first and one the second semester. I find it's been very, very interesting watching the students to see actually how they developed to go to the different places where they've been working. I know we look at some of the local stations, the credits looked like old class rolls, and some are off in different cities and different places. Some are in the field of radio, some in television. One student I heard from just recently was in the East Coast and is now anchoring a news program there. So that is a gratifying thing, is to see students become successful. That is the most gratifying of all.
Thanks for joining us in the OWL studio. I hope you can join us again, and thanks, Mr. Dalen, for teaching our class. I really did learn a lot.
Thank you.